Topping today's news, the Chief Justice addresses the issue of criminal trials taking a long time. The government addresses complaints by a number of U.S.-based airlines regarding overflight fees. Investors are happy to learn that over $5 billion has been located in FTX assets, and the Public Service Union still seeking an industrial agreement with the government. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. While he is not oblivious to the long and drawn-out proceedings the criminal trials in recent times often take, Chief Justice Sir Ian Winder is defending and dismissing attacks on court proceedings, calling them unhelpful. In his first address as the new Chief Justice at the opening of the legal year on Wednesday, Sir Ian spoke to the many reasons why the criminal justice system seemingly moves so slowly.
It is unhelpful to attack the judiciary and suggest that the courts are responsible for all that ails the criminal justice system, or that we are not completing trials. Not only is the suggestion wholly inaccurate, it ignores the known realities in the criminal courts and in our countries. In the past year, a considerable amount of nollies have been entered by the Office of the Department of Public Prosecutions. Most of these have been entered after the trial has begun or on the morning when the trial was commenced, often causing considerable loss of court days. Judges do not live in ivory towers or hold cloistered views of the country in which we live. We attend the same stores, churches, and public places as every member of the society. Our children and our families live in this society, and we love this country as much as everyone else. We want our communities to be safe and crime to be at an irreducible minimum.
In recent times, both the Minister of National Security and the Commissioner of Police have expressed their frustration with the court system. The Chief Justice emphasizes that judges take very seriously the oaths taken to uphold the law. He says judges do not make the laws, they merely interpret and apply them.
The rules of engagement to prosecute and defend criminal matters have not changed. The prosecution is aware as to what it takes to secure a conviction or to convince a judge that bail is not appropriate in a given circumstances. Judges act on evidence. There is an appropriate statement attributed to retired Chief Justice Dame John Sawyer, which states, "Justice is a cooperative exercise. It takes the demanding effort of all persons involved in the administration of justice to get the job done properly."
According to the Chief Justice, a backlog committee has been established and will be led by Senior Justice Bernard Turner and a criminal case management reform committee led by Justice Deborah Frazier. These committees, it is hoped, will make meaningful recommendations for the improvements of the criminal justice system. Chief Justice Winder expects those deliberations to feed into a wider task force being proposed by the Minister of National Security. As the government would have legally responded to the complaints filed from the lobbying group of Airlines for America, A4A, by the time of this broadcast, Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper says they are confident that an harmonious solution can be reached, not wanting to litigate the matter in the press. Speaking with reporters before the weekly cabinet meeting, Minister Cooper says discussions are ongoing.
This is a matter between ourselves and the U.S. government. The agreement for overflight is between us and the FAA. We are confident that we are applying the agreement as outlined, as ratified by ICAO, and we are confident that there will be an amicable settlement to the complaint. We continue to speak with our partners, the airlines. We are confident that we will be able to continue a harmonious partnership with them. As you know, aviation is the oxygen for tourism. Our airlift is up significantly, and therefore we hope that we will be able to continue the rebound in tourism unabated.
The minister responsible for aviation says they remain in contact with the Federal Aviation Administration, that's the FAA, and the U.S. Embassy while defending the Bahamas' right to collect fees on their airspace.
There are many countries in the region and around the world who charge overflight fees. We're not doing anything unlike any other country that has the flight information region. We are applying our sovereign right to apply to charge for access to our airspace. We are in fact providing services. The FAA provides some of the services. We provide services under a certain range. I wouldn't want to litigate the matter in the press, however. This is an ongoing discussion. We're filing a response to the complaint, and we will continue diplomatic dialogue with the other side. I'm confident the matter will be resolved amicably.
Reportedly, the A4A group alleges the Bahamas is overcharging for air navigation fees, which goes against certain treaty obligations. The main focus of the Department of Inland Revenue this year is to ensure that all businesses are being truthful in their turnover submissions when applying for new business licenses. With all business licenses expiring on December 31st of each year, January 31st is now the new deadline to apply for a new license. According to Acting Controller of Inland Revenue, Shonda Strawn, one of the requirements is to verify the amount of money made by the business before any deductions. She says this verification process is one of the main challenges for the department.
Because what we're finding is that most businesses really don't report their true turnover. And the challenge that the Department of Inland Revenue is having is verifying what that turnover amount is. So we have just under 50,000 businesses that registered last year. So we know that we will expect to have more than 50,000 businesses renew their business licenses this year. So that's our 50,000 businesses, and of that 50,000 businesses, really only about 9,000 of them are registered for VAT. And so what that tells us then is that you have more than 40,000 businesses that are saying they generate less than $100,000 a year. I don't know about that. So this year, we're going to be asking questions. We're going to have a dialogue with the businesses as they submit their application.
The online application requires businesses making over $100,000 a year to bring in their accountant certification, and smaller businesses garnishing less than $100,000 a year only need to prove their turnover.
So $100,000 a year, 1,000, just over, let's say $1,924 a month, or $385 a week, your turnover is more than $100,000. You should be a VAT registrant, and not only that, you should be submitting an accountant certification when you file. $385 a week? When you look at it, you spend about what, $8 buying a chicken snack? So I did the math, and when I broke it down, if you're making $385 a week and you're a fast food place, that's like about, that's about 48 chicken snacks in a week that you would have sold. If you're a liquor store and you sell and collect, that's like about 48 cases of collect or 48 cases of Bud Light in a week. $100,000. And the majority of the businesses are saying that they generate less than $100,000 a year.
Ms. Strawn goes on to say that the government's target this year for business licenses, $124 million. She believes by verifying turnover of businesses, the government will meet its target. The latest in the saga surrounding the collapse of FTX Digital Markets is that its lawyers revealed in a bankruptcy court in Delaware that they have located over $5 billion of cash, liquid cryptocurrency, and liquid investment securities in the firm which collapsed in early November last year. Attorney Andy Diedrich, who is advising FTX USA, told bankruptcy judge John Dorsey that the recovered funds do not include assets seized by the Securities Commission of the Bahamas. Meanwhile, Mr. Diedrich said they are also underway to monetize 300 other non-strategic investments that are not as liquid but have a value of some $4.6 billion. It remains unclear how much creditors will get back from the funds that were frozen after trading stopped when FTX began to unravel. Lawyers have said they have identified more than 9 million creditors, far more than the 1 million they had previously stated. Former CEO and co-founder of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, has pleaded not guilty to cheating investors. After his arrest, he was released on a $250 million bond, scheduled to return to court in the United States for trial in October. And finally, in this segment, none of the letters of communication from the Bahamas Public Services Union, the BPSU, according to President Kingsley Ferguson, concerning issues the union is having with their profession, has been responded to by the Prime Minister Philip Davis, which the union president has described as disappointing. Speaking with reporters concerning the status of negotiations over an industrial agreement between the public service workers and the government, Mr. Ferguson claims that the last written communication they have received was in late November, early December of 2022. Additionally, Mr. Ferguson says the union has other concerns they would like to address concerning conflicting interests.
We received a communication from the government indicating that they would have submitted a final proposal. Could I suggest today that there's no finality in negotiations until we reach an agreement? And so we're very concerned in that particular regard, and we are awaiting a response from the government on when we can commence those negotiations and sit like all the other unions would have sat and arrived at an amicable solution. We do have some concerns about conflict of interest. I don't want to go into detail in that particular regard, but we do intend to forward those communications again. We have already invited counsel to forward communications in that particular regard, and so we're hoping that that will prompt a response from the substantive Minister of Finance.
When asked what is left outstanding that needs to be addressed for both sides to come to an agreement, Mr. Ferguson simply said, everything.
There's been no discussion on the salary increases. We would have seen where the government made a decision unilaterally to pay public servants a particular amount of money. Whenever there is an industrial agreement, there is dialogue coming from both sides. And so we didn't have the opportunity the other trade unions would have had in order to arrive at a solution and a agreement concerning what our members should receive. We were also concerned that in our initial conversation, when the Prime Minister met with all trade unions, he indicated that he wanted to give a uniform increase. And so we were expecting that. When the proposals were forwarded, we found that we were at a disadvantage in comparison to other trade unions. And so we need to have a discussion and a dialogue in that regard so that we can get an understanding of why what was presented to us was presented to us.
When questioned on what may be next if negotiations still stall and if industrial action is a possibility, Mr. Ferguson says, as the union's leader, he will follow the consensus of all members based on what has been presented to him by the government. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.